The CEO of a California-based weather modification firm, Rainmaker Technology, has confirmed that his company conducted a brief cloud seeding mission over Texas on July 2, just 2 days before historic flash floods killed over 100 people. Augustus Dorico said the operation lasted only 20 minutes, involved seeding 2 clouds with silver iodide, and was called off the same day due to excessive moisture in the atmosphere. He insists the event had no connection to the catastrophic July 4 floods. Listen.
We're talking about like sub-centimeter amounts of precipitation, be it in snow or rain from every event, which in aggregate can mean hundreds of acre feet, which is very consequential for farmers and ecosystems, but cannot come close to causing flooding unto itself.
Mainstream scientists and meteorologists have backed that claim. They note that cloud seeding can slightly enhance rainfall, but cannot generate large storms on its own. The National Weather Service had already forecast severe weather tied to the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry. Experts argue that blaming geoengineering is scientifically baseless. Andrew Dessler, the director of Texas A&M University's Texas Center for Extreme Weather, stated the claim that cloud seeding played a role in this tragic event is complete nonsense. However, the timing of the seeding sparked online outrage and fueled theories that have led to real-world consequences, including vandalism of weather monitoring equipment and death threats. Critics are now calling for government transparency, private tech influence, and regulation of private weather modification activity, even if the science does not yet support the link. Here's a clip of Rainmaker CEO Augustus Dorico on the Sean Ryan Show 4 weeks ago, dismantling possibilities of natural disasters.
What could go wrong? What could go wrong in doing this?
Yeah, I think the
Mudslides.
the simple way to get around that is you just don't operate in highly populated areas, right? So like the Rocky Mountains, relatively unpopulated, but all of the snow and rain that goes there runs off into the cities that into the reservoirs and rivers that do benefit the cities, but tens or hundreds or thousands of miles away. So you can mitigate for that risk by operating in more remote areas. What could go wrong beyond that? Yeah, I think that you covered most of the bases there. It is if someone was totally irresponsible and totally irregulated operating over a highly populated area that you could run the risk of avalanches. But avalanches or floods. But in order to do that, like I said, you'd have to be operating totally irresponsibly. You'd have to have like either bad science or malicious intent. You would have to skirt around the existing regulations that require you to suspend operations if there is any risk. So we have like a pretty solid framework.
We now welcome Seamus Bruner, Director of Research at the Government Accountability Institute. He's also the author of Control Oligarchs, which is why we bring him on for this segment. You'll find out why in a second. Seamus, I watched this interview the day it came out 4 weeks ago. And at the time, I was deeply disquieted by nearly every answer that kid gave. And he's a very smart kid, but at the same time, did not have a lot of satisfactory answers about, what could go wrong. He seems to admit that flooding is possible. Your reaction?
Yeah, Chanel, that's right. I mean, it's shocking. He goes out on Twitter and says, well, we did not operate on July 4th and July 5th. Therefore, it couldn't possibly have been us, the floods in Texas. However, we did operate on July 2nd, so just days before the flooding, the same storm systems that caused this total devastation in Kerr County, sweeping away over 100 people, poor lost souls that died a terrible watery death. And he says that, well, it couldn't have been us, but it's like, well, I guess we just have to trust you on that. There's no oversight of this kind of thing. I mean, they basically just report their flights. And by the way, I mean, 2 years ago, a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, you couldn't talk about weather modification without being called totally insane, totally crazy. You're a tinfoil hat. I mean, I remember writing Control Oligarchs and talking about the Bill Gates weather modification efforts. And editors and publishers are like, you can't talk about weather modification. Now, apparently, it's totally normal that they're seeding the clouds over Texas, all over the country, all over the world. They're spraying this silver iodide into the clouds. And so while the Texas A&M study and other studies, University of Texas, Austin, have concluded that it's preposterous that it could cause 4 trillion gallons of water to fall from the sky, they actually acknowledge that it could boost rainfall up to 20%. And so that could tip the balance. I mean, 20% is not nothing. That could turn a normal storm into a devastating storm, especially with dry soil and all the rest. And so he's kind of cavalier on the Sean Ryan podcast, this Augustus DeRico, saying that, you know, we do it over low populated areas. Well, Kerr County, Texas is a relatively low populated area. And still 100 people have died. And so, like, the fact that you're not going to be showering Manhattan or Los Angeles in a bunch of water doesn't mean that it can't have devastating effects elsewhere.
The Peter Thiel angle here is very interesting, and Peter Thiel is obviously a big light in the conservative movement now. He is a big donor for Republicans, so, you know, the criticisms of him are a little more cautious these days amongst many. But you've been on to guys like him for a long time because you follow the money. There's all kinds of interesting motives behind a lot of these activities and projects. So this Augustus DeRico and this cloud seeding company is backed by Peter Thiel, or at least tied to him financially. Your thoughts on Peter Thiel and any statements they may start making in the coming days?
Yeah, well, you know, I find it interesting. There's a little bit of a parallel. I'm not surprised that Augustus DeRico became a Thiel Fellow. That got him a $100,000 grant or fellowship stipend, which is not nothing. The company Rainmaker has gotten about $35 million from various investors. It's unclear if they're Thiel or others. I mean, there's definitely others who've invested, but that's not a huge amount of money for a company that claims that it can control the weather. $30 million. I mean, that seems like a lot, but if you're, I'll give you my opinion. I don't think that Rainmaker had anything to do with the floods in Texas, and I do find it slightly odd how present he is in the media right now. I mean, he was on Steve Bannon's War Room just the other day. He's kind of everywhere talking about this. So it seems in a way like a PR stunt, trying to raise the profile of Rainmaker. I do believe that maybe it's in the centimeters. He says on the Sean Ryan show, DeRico says on the Sean Ryan show, that we're only talking about like fractions of a centimeter of rainfall that they can actually affect. So I don't think I don't think it's his company, at least, behind the Texas floods. But it's kind of unseemly to be going out there and, you know, on the back of this tragedy, acting like your company, you know, wink, wink, we can't do this, but raising your own profile, raising the profile of your company while people are, you know, experiencing such devastation. Regarding the Thiel Fellowship, I'm not surprised that this guy got a Thiel Fellowship. They're kind of similar in the sense that, you know, on the Bannon War Room, Augustus DeRico spends a lot of time talking about his Christian faith and saying that he doesn't think that he's playing God. You know, a lot of people have a problem with trying to affect the weather, modify the weather. They think that is playing God. A lot of Thiel's investments, people would accuse of trying to play God, things like brain-computer interfaces and stuff like that, life extension products. They say you shouldn't play God. Well, he's talked a lot about his Christian faith, and so therefore it may look like he's trying to play God, but he's really not because he's a Christian. And so these guys are they're kind of similar. So like I said, I'm not surprised he got a Thiel Fellowship.
Interesting. I was deeply discomforted by the Sean Ryan interview when I heard it. Clearly a smart kid, but at the same time, the conversation about God, I think that's something that people will be talking about for a little while. Seamus Bruner, a pleasure as always. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Chanel.
Coming up, Tim Young plays Headline Roulette. We've got quite the roundup. We'll be right back.